Welcome back to Potential Meets Passion, where we help humans reconnect authentically within. I'm your host, Annie, and today we have a special guest, Faylee, who's sharing about how we can use yoga as a discipline to explore stored traumas, fears, and seeing ourselves for who we really are, as well as how yoga is a spiritual practice of surrendering and facing your fears, learning to trust yourself to attract the love you deserve. Okay, welcome back to Potential Meets Passion, guys. So on this channel, we talk about self-development, spirituality, mental wellness, relationships, and all the other stuff that makes you a better human being. And today I have like a special guest with us, Faylee Thung. Faylee Thung, a very special multicultural guest here. She is Ashtanga yoga teacher, and she's been practicing yoga for more than 10 years.
Yeah, now it's 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Like just recently. Since I turned 29, it's 11 years.
Oh my God. Yeah. And her practice is very special. You know, like how other people are like, oh, yoga is so slow. Like I get bored. My mind goes crazy. It's because you haven't tried Ashtanga yoga yet. And that's different from Vinyasa or Hatha. And today we're not just going to talk about Ashtanga. You know, we're going to be talking about what Ashtanga philosophy is and how we can apply that into our life. And Faylee is all about that, you know. So Faylee, would you love to introduce yourself?
Okay, sure. As you already said, my name is Faylee, and I'm an Ashtanga yoga teacher. And actually, I just recently opened the shala here in Pathom. So we just started our community, and it's very exciting to see a bunch of young working professionals. I think that's like the main client is like, or the main like group of students. They're young working professionals who are just starting their own personal businesses, and then using the practice, I think, for mental clarity in the morning.
Wow.
So it's very, very cool.
Most of it's morning classes, right?
Yes.
Mostly morning classes.
No, you know, like I opened the evening class, but people like don't like it as much as they like the morning class.
Because it sets you right. I think it sets your mind right for the day. You know, it's like the good routine you have, like the morning routine you have. So how long have you been like doing yoga, or how has like this journey has started? Did you start with Ashtanga right away?
Yep. So actually, I started yoga in high school.
Wow.
But that wasn't like serious practicing like this. Like I would just kind of go into the yoga studio in my town. And in my high school, they had a very cool program where if you didn't want to do gym class, you could like opt into the yoga special class. Okay. So I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I really don't want to do gym class. Like, it's really smelly.
I don't want to do it either.
Like, I don't want to like, deal with these people. So that was like my first experience with yoga. Is I would do like the yoga class, and then actually the interesting thing is I had my social studies class after that, and like the semester I did not do yoga. I remember I would sit in social studies class and I'd kind of just be like my brain would be going like, you know, all over the place. Yeah. But then the second semester when I had the yoga class, it was the yoga class first. And then all of a sudden, like the second semester, I had so many answers in the social studies class. And I really would be like so present in the class.
Wow.
Want to like talk to the teacher and engage with him. And things change so much.
So we know what schools should do from now on, you know. Yeah, that should be implemented in high schools. Like I don't know any high schools that does that, you know, but it's really good for the mind and like making you focus,
and especially like teenagers, you know, just imagine teenagers, like the worst point in your life where you're like, I want to ignore my body. It's changing. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. You know? yeah, definitely. And then you started off as in high school, right? Yes. And you started doing teachers training right away, or what happened?
No, so that like just wasn't serious. I would say that's like my first introduction to yoga. But then when I went to university, like I knew that my program was going to be very intense. It was a conservatory for acting.
Oh, so you studied acting. You became an actress.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow.
But like, so I went to like a intense conservatory for acting, Emerson College. And, you know, like, I think the first day when I just like sat in the circle with everybody, all of my peers, I could tell like this environment is going to be very stressful because everybody, like, there's also a cut program within this conservatory. So you start with 32 people. And then after the first 2 years, it gets cut to 16.
Okay, so like very selective.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's like half of the whole body, right?
Yep.
Wow.
And you just like, I think it's like thousands of people who apply and audition. And then like 32 get in, some are waitlisted. And then after that, it's cut. So like you can just feel like the environment, like in the room, everybody's sitting together, all 32.
It's like Hunger Games.
Hi, so nice to meet you. But it's like, I might have to stab you.
Oh my God.
You know? I might have to like stab you in the back one day and like take your spot. Like it's like, oh, so nice to meet you, but this spot is mine.
Oh my God.
You know?
So that's like the entertainment industry for you in the States.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Wow, it's like Hunger Games, huh?
Yes. No, it is. It is like Hunger Games. So I think that like then my actually RA, my resident assistant, like she said, oh, you know, I'm going to yoga class. If anybody would like to join me, like please let me know. And I immediately was just like,
yeah,
you know, because I knew
keeps you sane.
Like this situation, like I need a place like of my own that I can just kind of like relax, center, do like whatever I need to do. So that was the beginning. And the first year was just like Vinyasa classes, Jiva Mukti yoga also, which is actually what's interesting is Jiva Mukti is very similar to Ashtanga yoga.
Yeah, what is that?
So Jiva Mukti, actually the teachers, Sharon Gannon and David Life, they practiced Ashtanga on their own, but then kind of made a sequence based on this that would be kind of more popular and more people would want to do.
Like more accessible, more fun.
Yeah.
More fun.
Yes. Like mixing things together.
Okay.
And like the sequence is not always the same all the time. Like it's always similar, but it's not like with Ashtanga yoga, how it's like, you know exactly what you're going to do. Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. It's like such a long story.
I just wanted to know what's the difference between like the real difference between Ashtanga and Vinyasa now, because we start talking about Vinyasa and most of the yoga that is happening in the world is kind of like Vinyasa, right? Yeah. Like the popular flows. So just want the audience to get a picture before we dive deeper into Ashtanga. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you like look at like the beginning sequences, like the probably like the most popular and beginning sequences you'll have. So there's the first teacher, which is Krishnamacharya. And then his two like most popular students were Sri K. Patabi Joyce, the father of Ashtanga yoga, and BKS Iyengar, the father of Iyengar yoga. Okay. So like these are like kind of like the rudimentary practices and sequences. And then, like, you know, people saw, okay, here, there's a lot of benefits of Ashtanga yoga, but maybe, like, for example, in the West, it's not going to be accessible to all of these bodies.
Why?
I think, like, it has to do with the climate and stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
But, like, you know, it's, like, it's very different. Like Eastern bodies versus Western bodies and, like, the types of things that they can do is very, very different.
Like, as in, like, our physical body?
Like Asian bodies are way more flexible.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense now.
So like I think it's like also about the environment, because I did practice in Boston too. Like in Boston, everything is so cold, and to try to like get your body to move and become flexible, it's really, really difficult. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
But then here in Thailand, you just like raise your arms up, Surya Namaskara A, and you're ready just like dripping sweat. So yeah. Okay. But so like Vinyasa or like, you know, power yoga, any of these types of practices, they come from, you know, the roots of Iyengar and Ashtanga yoga, but then they have like different asanas, different sequences created. So Iyengar and Ashtanga, it's like, okay, you do the same like boring things every time. But you know, like these other types of classes, it's also just kind of meant for people who may not be serious about doing yoga. Yeah, just would like to like receive some of the benefits. Yeah. And like I was like that my first year of practicing. Like that's what brought me into yoga as well. Yeah. Was okay, like let's just like, you know, just like like dip the toe in first before we just dive in.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think that's like for beginners and like for the start of the journey of what yoga is. But then like once, like for me, once I started like practicing yoga and all that stuff, the more came to me as like mental clarity, and more came to me as like the philosophy of just like keep trying but don't push yourself, and like all these things, like the wisdom comes to you just by the practice. Like no one's telling you anything. The teacher doesn't tell you anything. They just tell you like, okay, this is the way you do the asanas, but then they don't tell you like, you know, this is the wisdom. Like you just learn that, your body learned that.
That's the thing, is like there's so much knowledge and so much experience that's just stored in the body. So I think that like, you know, if you have time to just like breathe and be with the body, which most people I think spend their entire life avoiding. You know?
Yes, I know that.
But if you have to like slow down and be with the body, I think it will tell you like everything that you need.
That's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, back to your story.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, back to your story. So you were practicing in college then with like a very hectic environment.
Yes. So then after the first year of college, then I went home like for summer break, and I was like, okay, you know, I want to continue practicing yoga. What kind of yoga studio will I have? And then there was just like this one like very small yoga studio in my town that everybody went to, and they said, okay, do like the Mysore style Ashtanga program. And okay, I was like, okay, like let's see. Like I see like all old people are going to this class, so like let's see what it's like.
Old people, and you're the only young one.
Yes. And I really felt like, okay, you know, like in Boston, everybody's wearing like young, cool clothes and doing arm balances. I felt like, okay, like we can do all of this. And then I went to this class, and you have a 70-year-old balancing in Bakasana with straight arms.
Yeah.
Like no, and
I think that's a crow pose, right?
Yes.
Bakasana.
Yes. Just like balancing like with straight arms. And I felt like, okay, like we're going into something special here. But yeah, so it actually turns out that my first teacher, Tom Rosenthal, he was a direct student of Sri K. Pattabhi Jois. So that already is very special. And then, you know, I didn't really know like that much about him, of like, you know, who he was in the Ashtanga yoga community or the history, but he's the first photographer to take photos of Pattabhi Jois and Sharatji when they came to America.
Oh, wow.
So like many of these like historic photos, it's all taken by him.
Oh, okay. So he's in the inner circle.
Yeah.
He's in the inner circle. Okay.
But yeah, I would like, when I went into the shala, I just felt like, okay, like, you know, this is my teacher, Tom, who's like really strict with me. And I remember the first day, it was just like forever Surya Namaskara A and B. And I walked home, and I could barely walk. Like everything was just so sore in my legs and my arms. Wow. Then my mom just made fun of me. She was like, oh, this is why it's called Mysore, because you come back like, ooh, you know.
Your mom. Yeah. That's hilarious. I see. Okay.
And then it was 3 months here with Tom Rosenthal, and then Amy Webb. And Amy was a student of Richard Freeman, who was also like one of like the like most famous like older Ashtanga practitioners. And then his style, I would say, is like way more energy based. So way more. What does that mean? Like okay, like feel the center line of your body, like very with like the old school Pattabhi Jois, it's really like, okay, here's this posture, here's the correct way to do it. But Richard Freeman would more be like, okay, like imagine energy moving out of here. Imagine just like pushing the ball of your big toe forward, like tiny like details like this. So you had the opposition of like of this man who had studied with Pattabhi Jois, and then this woman who studied with Richard Freeman. So like them working together was really amazing, because they're very, very different types of teachers.
So you have the contrast going on in your life. And did you realize like which one did you like more, or what it was teaching you differently? Like which one was giving you what kind of lessons, like that's not related to, you know, practicing the asanas, but more like for yourself, like for your mind and that stuff. Like
I think they both worked like perfectly together, because you have one that's just like, you know, move forward, like you have to break. There's a lot of pain, you know, when you first start practicing. It's like not even like like physical pain, but it's like just so much, you know, like we hold all of the trauma, we hold everything in our body. And I think like when I first started practicing, it was just like my body is just a hard like block of rock or ice. You're just like very, very frozen. And you need like kind of like you have fire, like it's basically like you're heating your body up when you practice. But I would say it's kind of like fire and violence when you first start practicing. Like you need to like break apart all of that. Like imagine if you have like so much trauma in your body, like that came from a violent something violent that had happened
to you.
So you kind of need to like
and is
like,
that the reason why you're not flexible? One of the reason why?
I think it can be.
It can be, right?
But everybody's different. Like for example, like I have one friend who she trusts everybody. She trusts everybody. She always gets screwed over by people.
Okay.
And her back bend is amazing, and she's so flexible.
And what does that like have an
it's just interesting. It's like the psychology of the human and the psychology of the body, they just go together.
Okay.
Because this person can just like be super flexible, but then it has like the downside.
Oh, okay. Because back bends are supposed to be like your chest is open, your heart is open, and then you're trusting for everyone and all that stuff. And then it comes out in like your body posture.
Yes.
I have really good back bends though.
So you're very trusting. That's good. I had to work a lot on my back bends, but like me and this friend, like we have learned a lot from each other because the body, like our bodies are just very different.
Wow.
But it's just like it's very nice.
That's so interesting
to see.
Okay, so that's one part of the practice is just going forward, getting to know your body, and then getting to know the psychology of like why your body like cannot move in a certain way, can move in a certain way. Yeah. You know, and the other part, which you said is like the energy part, reading part, and what do you learn about that?
I mean, I would say with Amy, like all of the specific energy points that she taught me, like I still remember today because they're so specific of like, okay, you know, like push forward here in this posture, like feel this open here in this posture. But it's like they have to work together, because I think it was just thinking about this energy, I wouldn't have had like the momentum to go forward.
That sounds very it could be applied into many things in life. Just having this energy, you couldn't go forward without the momentum, without knowing where to push. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You need like, it's like if you are like a block of ice, you need to be melted first. And then, or maybe not ice, you can think of maybe like wax, right? Like beeswax or something like this. Like you need to like be melted first, and then you can begin to move and mold into whatever form you want to be.
But then you kind of need to know where to push to mold yourself in. Exactly. Like you can't push everything. Yeah. Or else you become like this squeezed up wax. Oh, okay, I see. That's very good wisdom. I think I can imagine that inside my head now, just applying it to life in general. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So I kind of want to dig deeper into like the yoga practice and the philosophy, you know, because I've had like other yoga teachers as guests in my podcast too, and we've talked about trauma, how, you know, yoga has like changed their life and transformed their trauma and all that stuff. But one thing that really struck me, knowing you as a person, is your classes are just so like so disciplined. Like if you go to Faylee's class, you just know that like it's the energy is just like, you know what you gotta do, and you gotta do what you gotta do. like it's the absolute discipline that I've never experienced before. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So like and I've practiced like Ashtanga in other places, and I've realized when I've met you, I realized that no, those were not really Ashtanga. Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I think one of the issues that I've seen not only in Thailand, but like in many places, like a lot of people are like, oh, I teach Ashtanga yoga, but they don't study with Shirachi. And like, that's actually quite a big problem. Like, I don't think they understand this, but you know, this is a family lineage that came from his grandfather to him, and then to his trusted students that he said, you can teach according to my method because I trust that you have learned that you've learned correctly.
So it's very sacred in a way.
Yeah. And then I think like, I mean, I when I see stuff like this, I'm kind of just like, you know, you just like took something from the family and said that you're teaching it, but you don't even know them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird to me.
It's kind of like stealing.
Yes, it is stealing. It is stealing. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, but so like, how does it go like with Ashtanga?
Mm-hmm.
It's like from my experience, right? It's very different because you go in, there's very certain sets of sequences that you have to know, you have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I was never taught before until I met you was where to look.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a small detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it made all the differences.
Yeah.
Because you're I think you become like 70% more focused when you know where to look. And that applies to like stuff in life too.
Yeah.
You know, like when you do go to a meeting, you know, go into an event, you know where to look, you're already focused. You're already automatically, your body knows what to go for.
Did you notice that might have changed? Like, did you feel that way after you practiced? Like when you went to the meetings, you went to the events, you felt a change?
Yeah, I felt change. I felt so much change after going to your class, you know, that like the part about when you said, having like mental clarity of like where to go next, you know, the sequences, like you just have to know like an automatic response to your body and you just get used to it. And it's kind of like that structure that I didn't have and I needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps with like work, with like going to meetings, with just knowing like, okay, I'm not focused right now and I just come back and all that stuff. Yeah. So I kind of want to like ask you about what it is for you, you know, discipline. And because that's what I feel Ashtanga is. It's like that. It's like that. Yeah.
I mean, I think like the first thing that like we need to understand is entropy actually. When it comes to like then like coming to the practice, like entropy, it just means like everything is crazy. Like naturally, like the world will move into chaos. And I think that, you know, like for me, like the practice and the discipline and the structure has helped me handle the chaos. But if it were not like something like this, you know, to know like, okay, this is a home, this is a place that I can always come back to, then everything else, like I just would feel like, okay, like I'm constantly just being like shaken by the chaos of like everyday life events.
Yes.
And that's also like something I think that like, you know, it helped me during the university time is I now I realize that even like from a high school age until like maybe like just before I moved to Thailand, like I would suffer from like a lot of anxiety because I think very fast. I always try to plan for the future.
Me too. Me too. I can't sleep well.
Yeah.
And that has helped.
Yes, because in the practice, like you cannot, like, you know what I used to do in Boston is like if I felt like stressed or something, I would just put on running shoes and just like run 6 miles. Like I'm so stressed. I
need to get it out.
Yeah.
And did it help?
So like the running like helped for a little bit until my teacher like was just like, hey, you know, if you want to move forward in the Ashtanga practice, you have to stop running.
Why? What
like
is
just makes everything so tight in your body. And then he asked me this question: what are you running for? And I was like, oh, fuck. What are you?
I see.
But then, like when I began to like focus on the practice so much, like I could feel like that natural flightiness in my body. Like when postures would become very uncomfortable, like that same like, you know, anxiety inside would be like, run away.
I see.
And then like, you know, for certain postures, like the extreme change like in my mind and my body when I decided to stop running or stop giving up in like some of these postures, everything changed. Because then I was able to realize, oh, like, you know, you can do this posture without stopping, without running away, but you can just go and keep breathing in this very, very scary place. Like you're able to do this.
Just expand yourself in the pain. In the uncomfortableness. Right.
And then just see what happens. Like if you're here, there's so much pain, you're facing like like screaming, like mental, like screaming in your head, but you just try to find the breath. You keep still trying to find the breath and move forward and see like what space you can create inside of that. And I think when I did this for some of my really like most difficult postures, then I saw the pattern in my life.
What was it?
Can you share? Posture? Oh, there's one.
Can you share the pattern and the posture?
So like the first time that this happened was Kapotasana, which is a very deep back bend. So it looks like Ustrasana, camel's posture, like when you're on your knees and then you go back. But then Kapotasana is you go back and you walk the hand all the way to the heel, catch, and then go down.
So you basically just let your whole head like go.
But your head does not rest on the ground.
No.
So it's actually like the hips are pushing forward. It's the entire front of the body open, exposed, and stretching. And the chest like really, really, really opening up. So I would spend like half an hour like working on this posture every day because it's so like
it's so hard for you
to go down. Yeah.
And how was that like a pattern in your life, or what did you realize?
Well, actually, you know what I realized is it was not actually hard for me. So actually, like my chest is quite open.
Yeah.
But I was like just scared. Like it was like the inside that would start freaking out, and I would kind of just like succumb to like the fear. So every time I would go back, like I would just feel the fear come up, and then just like like be frozen to fear, and then come back up. And not go all the way back. But then, you know, like I had this teacher who said, okay, no, you just keep walking and catch your heels, just keep breathing and just do it. You have to fight for it. So then I did it for the first time this day. And then every time like I would have to fight for it.
Oh, okay.
And like maybe for like 6 months, like I would have to fight for it until I could do it in Shirachi led second class in New York. But it was just like, I think that what I realized is that then this pattern of like becoming scared and running away happened so many times in my life. Like just like in uncomfortable conversations with people, or just like not wanting to be in a place, like I would just like go away.
Just like leave, basically. That's what I used to do as well. That's what anxiety gets me as, you know, because like I would like book a hotel and go there. And then once I get there, I'll book another hotel just so I feel like, okay, I have an option to like leave and stay somewhere else tomorrow, you know. But whereas like I like the booking was for like 2-3 days, but I didn't care. I was just like, I want to leave. Like, I need to leave right now. And I just got there. That was the anxiety that was like coming up to me all the time. Yeah. So I get what you mean.
But I think like, but then I think like going back to like discipline and continuing to do this posture, like at this point of this, like working this posture, many people give up. They don't want to practice anymore.
It's scary.
It's like, why am I torturing myself doing this posture every day?
Yeah.
Like,
everyone's like, when you go free diving, when you do yoga, everyone's like, why would you like stretch yourself that far and like hurt your body and do weird stuff to your muscles? Like, they don't get it. Like, why would you put yourself in a position to feel so much pain and call it sports?
I think for me, like I realized like that's where the pain is. If I don't address it, then it will just continue to like run my life instead of me. You know, like it's not going to be like the calm and like clear mind that is addressing everything in my life, but it's going to be like this, you know, this anxious, like anxiety ridden person who's controlling my life.
That's true.
So actually then like it just started to show up in my life. Like, for example, if I had to like do like a visa appointment or something and like renew my visa to Thailand, like I would always have so much anxiety about this. But then like, you know, I realized, okay, you know what? It's not that bad. It's just Kapotasana. I do Kapotasana every morning and like this comes up. This is way easier than Kapotasana. So it's like really...
So just be like, compare it to your yoga poses.
But seriously.
But that's true. That's how I feel when like I submerge myself into like deep pain. Like for me, it was like ice bath 3 weeks ago. Or like, after that ice bath, everything in life just feels easy.
Wow.
You know? Because you'll just be like, that was so much pain. That was so much fear, you know, but you got over it and then everything in like it's like going over a test or something. It's just like the illusion of fear inside your own head.
Yeah.
And your body is kind of like getting used to being or feeling uncomfortable, you know. And is that like the discipline that we get to practice in yoga is basically the discipline of facing your fears, being uncomfortable positions.
I think seeing yourself clearly for who you are. So it's not only like the fear is maybe something that will come up, but you know, like I think everybody's going to come to practice with their own history, their own life. Like everybody's completely different.
Yeah.
But it's really like with this Mysore style Ashtanga yoga, it's really like, okay, will you show up and like see be willing to see what's here?
Yeah.
And it can be joy, it can be fear, it can be many different things. But it's just like, can you be honest with yourself? I think that's the first question.
I know, it is true. Sometimes I show up to your class and then I feel excited. And sometimes I show up to your class and I feel pressured. And that's like, honestly, other people would be like, oh, Faylee's so strict, you know, like I feel so pressured around her, but it's actually you are pressuring yourself. Exactly. You're pressuring yourself to perform. And I'm honest with myself about that. Like, I don't want to mess up in class because everyone else is there. And I don't want, like, if you're looking at someone else and then I mess up and I just feel like, what the hell am I doing? I'm just like frozen here waiting for you. I feel helpless.
No, you don't have to feel that way. Like I've fallen on my face so many times. Like you really don't have to be worried about messing up.
I know. I guess like that's the inner critic in me that comes up during class. And that's what I don't want to face when I go to Mysore.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like class where I just look at you and then just do whatever you're doing, you know? Yeah.
I mean, that actually happens like in India as well. Like people sometimes hurt themselves actually because they'll be practicing to like perform for Sharatji. And actually like he never asks people, like he never asked people to like practice like this, but it's like the pressure that they put on themselves of like, he's here, like I have to do this, blah, 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 blah. And actually like, I think like the time that I connected with him the most was when I was injured. And I just told him, hey, you know, like I cannot catch my hand like this because my wrist hurts. And like, I just explained it to him. Okay, it's fine. Don't worry. You know?
Yeah. And then I guess like as a human being, you have compassion and you got to first have it for yourself too. And then to someone else, to others. And that comes out in like the yoga practices too, because I remember when I first started doing yoga, well, back when I just came back from college, because it started when I was 9 and then I stopped and I came back and I did it in like the Absolute Studios. And it was hot yoga. And I was pushing myself so hard to do I forgot the name, but it was Bird in Paradise. Twisted Bird in Paradise. Wow. And I wasn't doing yoga at that time. And I was like pushing myself so hard. I had no compassion for like my body. I just wanted to like prove myself that I could do it, you know? So it was all very ego driven, very anxiety driven, that like, I'm not going to catch up in class. And I think you learn so much about yourself, just like practicing and doing, but of course I got to reflect back and be conscious about it too. You know?
I mean, like even some Ashtanga studios can be like this too, you know, like whereas like there's like a competition with yourself, competition with others. And I think that like now that I've opened the program too, like that's something I really have to watch as a teacher of, you know, like if I see somebody who's like trying to compete with the other person, like I really have to talk to them and say, hey, like, you know, focus on yourself, stay in your lane, because it's like, I think that's like my main goal is to create a healthy and supportive environment where people really just try to like, you know, not like, obviously like, you're not gonna like look around during class. Oh, what are you doing? What are you? Cause then you're not
learning,
focusing on what you need to do.
You're not learning about yourself.
But I think like outside of class, having a group that really just supports who the other person is and just tries to help. Tries to help each other.
That's good. That's a community you can build around it. Right. So I want to know, like, because this is like the mindset going forward, right? With the discipline part, with like facing your fears part, with like just allowing and reflecting yourself, what shows up in class and not running away from it. And that itself is already like being honest and giving yourself love in that sense.
And some days you won't be able to do it too. Like that's also like another part is like that's like where the compassion comes into. Like some days if you just like have so many things going on and like there's a lot of external pressure, like I will tell people like all the time, hey, just take it easy today. Like I can tell like it's, you know, your mind isn't here, just do what you can do and then leave. It's fine. You know, you can't be like
can't be perfect
100% every day.
Yeah, it's not realistic, right? So that's like the philosophy of yoga is just like get on the mat. It doesn't matter what happens as long as like you can get on the mat already, and that's already like a win. You know, more than just like pushing yourself when you don't feel like it.
It's sadhana. So sadhana is like a spiritual practice, and it's like it's for yourself, I think, so that you can, you know, check in with yourself each day. But then it's also we have this idea of surrender to God. So God can really be anything, you know, any higher power that you believe in. But when you practice, it's also like, you know, that you're surrendering to something greater than yourself. And when you show up in the room, like, you know, you're here, it is your own body, but you also have to trust that like something up there is carrying you through the practice in a way. And that you're not just practicing, okay, like here, I want like abs. Okay, here, I'm doing it, you know, but
I want like abs. So wait, what does that, can you elaborate further into that? Like how does going to the room and practicing relates to your connection with something bigger than you? And, or how does that, what do you have to surrender to? Like, what is the example that happens? Like I can feel it because I practice alone. And it's very hard to practice alone. Yes. You know, and it feels like it's not like running, you know, it's like running on a treadmill. You're still running at the same place. But yoga, like you're doing stuff at the same place, but your mind is just like crazy. That's the scary part.
I mean, that's also like I think the best part about the Mysore room is it's like why it's like kind of like still like this is because, you know, it's the place that can just be still for your mind. And I think like the discipline and like the quietness of the room is a place that then you can really watch your mind. But if you're like home, like, you know, in your comfort zone, it's probably the most difficult place to practice. Even now, like, you know, this is like the 11th year. It's like, it's still difficult. Okay. You know, I'm practicing at home and then, okay, my dog was crying. Like, it's like all these things happening. But so the surrender, I mean, it can be anything. Like I have this feeling when I'm in Mysore, you know, it's like, there can be so many things going wrong. Like it's cold. Like I think like my period's going to come. So it's like soon. So like my body's like hurts, you know, like any type of thing, like any excuse that would come up, but it's just like, okay, no, just show up. Like the group is going to be here. Shirachi's going to be here. Like just show up, surrender to what he's teaching. And I can feel this when he's there. Like, for example, like even like Kapotasana again, like what we were talking about, that back bend, like some days, like, okay, like take your time, slowly go into it. But if he's standing in front of my mat, I'll be like, okay, breathe in, breathe out. I caught my heels. Wow. You know, suddenly it just happens so quickly. And that's like, I know like in that room and with my guru, I'm surrendering to a power that is higher than myself. That's not just like about me anymore, but there's something bigger happening.
And I think that's when you become more human, right? Because you're more connected to things that you don't have to see. And you just have to believe. It's like faith in practicing. And all that stuff.
And there's many, like, you know, for India, like there's just so many different gods. Like if you go to the shala in Mysore, there are so many different gods that you would see displayed on the altar. And like for example,
with them.
And then I think that you can just choose like this is one that relates to me. Like for our shala, for example, I put Ganesha, which is the remover of obstacles. So that's a really good one to have, I think, in the shala. But like in your home, it can be like weird because sometimes like things can break and like a lot of crazy things can happen. But for the shala, like, because it's a very strong energy, Ganesha is a very strong energy, but it works for the shala because obviously like so many obstacles can come up in the room. So it works in that situation.
I see. I see. So you kind of like gotta feel connected to the God that is for you at that time, at that place. And for whatever purposes, right?
Yeah. And I know many people, like, you know, many Christians who also practice Ashtanga yoga, and they just integrate their own faith inside of this practice.
What does that look like?
I mean, then it would be Jesus. Like, it would be like, okay, what are you surrendering to when you practice?
Jesus.
That would, yeah.
God.
So yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like just connecting you to something that is higher than yourself as you're practicing. And I guess this like happens in other sports too, like golf. I would say you have to surrender a lot in golf. I have to do that in freediving because like anything can happen in freediving. Like anything, you just gotta trust yourself. Yeah, and I think that for yoga, that is also the same for me too. Yeah, I just feel like you gotta trust yourself that like you can go through it today, and even if you can't, it doesn't mean that it's bad or it doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're practicing.
Yeah,
you know. And it's hard because like life doesn't work that way in like in outside of the practice room, and when you're working either in corporate as a boss, as a manager, like you don't surrender. The ego wants to work. The ego wants to control every single thing that's
sometimes
happening.
You have to, like, sometimes like I've had some times in my life where I've just tried like, you know, one thing after another to move forward on a project or something like this.
What do you mean one thing after another? Like just try this,
like,
try
okay,
that.
like talk to this person, like, you know, try to make this thing move forward. And then, you know what? It's like all the resistance is just coming at me.
Yeah.
And I realize, okay, like, you know what? There's nothing else I can do.
And then just
drop
like
it. Exactly. And it's like, okay, like that is also surrendering to God, because it's like, okay, you know what? Like I have to surrender to the fact that there's some other plan in the universe for my life. And okay, like drop this, go on to the next one.
And then it will come to you if it's supposed to be yours, right? It should be easy. And okay. So like, is there like any other things about Ashtanga that you feel like has kind of like improved your life, improve yourself, or improve the way you think you approach things, you know, after all the things that we've talked about?
I mean, I think like I've really grown up with Ashtanga yoga. Like many people, like, you know, meet the practice at different ages. Like I started when I was 18 and now I just turned 29. Like most people like start after 30. So it's been a really like strange journey for me of, okay, like giving up, you know, like the 20 something lifestyle. There was one point where I just like looked at, you know, like everybody, like all my friends and stuff, and like realized, you know, this life of like going out, drinking, like looking for the thrills, like always having to like look perfect, all of these things. This is not
that's what I'm going through. This is not me.
This is not like the higher self that I want. And this is also just like creating more and more of that anxiety.
More anxiety. Of having to look like perfect, on point, always looking good, always being presentable, you know. It just adds more to it.
But I think that somebody, when they're like really just like comfortable in themselves, they're so beautiful. It doesn't matter like how much like stuff you would cover yourself up with, like people who cover up. Like I think that also when I was doing that, like I was aware, like I'm covering up, like I'm putting all these things on to like to hide something else. But anyway, that being said, like I think that I've grown up with this practice. Like we've moved together. I mean, even like from America to Thailand, like it's always been like my stable home. No matter where I've gone, is there's always a shala, there's always a practice. Like I always like come to myself. I think like COVID was for sure the most difficult time, because again, like it's like the world stopped. We're all scared of where we're going to go, and that time practicing, and also like the anxiety definitely came back during that time for me. And you know, like that time, like practicing like with the anxiety together, and just like listening to that voice, becoming friends. Like I think that I grew a lot, because no shala, no teacher, just me in the practice.
Wow. So it's just you. You and yourself. You against you.
But then after that time, like I think I also became way more clear of, okay, this is like the darkest part of myself, and I was able to like understand that a lot more. And then coming out, that's also where I was able to meet my husband, because I think that I made things like with the practice, I really kept like whittling away at all these things that are like covering up, And I mean, I'm still doing it every day, but still like going down to the core of like what is unnecessary, let that go. What is feels right, stay with that. But I think if I hadn't practiced so many years, like I would be scared to see what kind of person I would have ended up with.
Wow.
You know?
Wow. So you mean that like from that summary, it's just like the more you practice, the more you've let go of the identity that didn't serve you. And then as COVID came, you kind of like, well, you had to practice, and you practiced so much that you got to actually see the real stuff that was hidden, and without like all the distractions of like with the teacher or like the other people. And it was just you and you. And then once you let go more and more, you came out and you mentioned Shannon, basically. You met your husband. Wow. It's like a love story.
But, you know, it's like I think it's like with anything, like if you are not working on yourself, like the relationship is just gonna be fucked up. Like what, you know, like if you're just like covering up or like, you know, like just like scared to be with yourself, then that's like the energy that you're portraying, and the person that you meet, it's just like they're attracted to like a very insecure person.
Yeah.
You know?
Or what about like people who are desperately like want to have a relationship or want love, and then they're working on themselves, and for some reason like they just can't seem to attract anyone. Like, do you know what that means?
No. You know, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because like honestly, I think like when I met Shannon, like I didn't actually want a relationship.
That's how it usually comes.
Yeah, I
like
think
if you don't want it, it's gonna come. Yeah. But if you want it, it's not gonna come.
Yeah.
That's how like my life has turned out.
Yeah. I think for everybody, like it's like they meet the person when they're just like, okay, relaxed and like just focusing on themselves.
True. That's how I met my boyfriend too. I was busy practicing.
Wow.
And I was like, I want to stay here on this Gapangan island, just like practicing yoga. And he came to the island. Wow. Yeah, so I guess like to attract like the best thing for you, just relax. Right, just relax. And like yoga practices us to relax and just be ourselves on the mat, just focus on ourselves.
I think it's like also like before COVID, like, you know, like the people that I would see, they'd always try to be like challenging my lifestyle of like, why don't you eat dinner? Why don't you stay out late? Why do you wake up early? Why do you have to practice every day? And it was always just trying to be like, you're too strict, you're too blah 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 blah. And I just felt like, you know, this like these people are just gonna pull me away from like the life that I actually want.
True.
You know?
True.
Just like, okay, bro, like who do you think you are? Like really? Like, who do you think you are? Like I love my practice way more than you.
I love that. Yeah. Wow, that's true. But then you kind of realized that like during COVID that you were being kind of like pulled away and distracted and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
or before that, before COVID started.
No, I think like at any point, like I always kind of knew like this practice and this way of living, like this is like who I am, and this is what feels like right to me. Like I'm finding like a better self when I'm doing this. And you know, like if I guess like if I did something else that would like pull me away from the past, like I had practiced so often that I could feel like this is pulling me away from like what I actually want.
As in like the people saying stuff and like
the people, the group, like it's like, okay, then like, you know, like for example, like if you're dating this guy, then you're talking to all of his friends, and then, you know, you just feel like the conversation is like vapid, like super shallow.
Right. And it doesn't give you like the fulfillment that you feel every day and all that stuff.
And then like also like going to Mysore, like I would say like my best friends actually like I've met in Mysore, because we all understand the life. Like it's like it's difficult. We all like wake up super early, you know, and then go teach our classes, and like we all understand. We're like, oh, okay, like so you feel this way today. Yeah. Okay. we just get it.
Yeah.
But it's difficult like to explain to other people
who don't practice. You know, they're not in the same like frequency as you are, and like so I see, I get it. And like so that has helped you. Mysore or Ashtanga has helped you in the sense of like just bettering yourself, focusing on yourself, attracting the best for yourself, because it is the path for you, right? And is there like any other like philosophies that you've learned from Mysore, from Ashtanga, that like we could apply to everyday life. Like as for me, because I'm not like a serious practitioner, like I just do it for just like doing it.
I mean, I think it is just like any person in like no matter what they choose, having the passion to check in with themselves every day, like no matter what it is, you know.
Just be like, hey, how do you feel today? Hey, like, and be honest with yourself, right? Because like we're sold to say like we're good, we're always good, you know, like it's like an automatic response. And sometimes we're just so busy thinking about the next thing that we don't even know what we're feeling or bother to check in with how we're feeling.
You're reminding me of like so my Ashtanga teacher in Boston, one thing that she said to me, which was like it's so funny, she said, you know, like it's way too early in the morning for us to pretend to be anything else. And it's like I think that's also why like what's so nice about this time, like this early morning practice, is like you have no time to put on makeup, you have no time to like put anything extra on, but it's just like everybody is just like honestly in the room, like just being themselves. And it's also why we become such good friends with people who we went through like, you know, this mutual challenge with, because it's like, okay, we understand it's all hard, but it's like even, you know, if we practice next to each other for maybe like 1 year, but we never spoke outside of the shala, I would know, okay, Annie's having a difficult time in that posture again. Okay, I hear her breathing, you know, and then like one day that like we actually do talk, we would just understand each other. Like we wouldn't really like, it would just be like, okay, now we get to like finally talk like humans, but we already have like connected on a very deep level of like just practicing next to each other, you know, going through the challenge, feeling each other's breath and energy. Like we already know.
Because you're literally like going through pain together in some sort of way, like your own journey, but you're next to each other in your own journey of pain.
I mean, it's not, and now I feel like we're making it sound like it's only pain. Like it's not only pain. Like, you know, it's also I think find like a level of strength when you do this, when you overcome a challenge. Like I think we mentioned a painful experience, but I think there's also times where
it's
like
rewarding.
And I think, but also like, for example, like strength and balancing postures. Like in that, like you have to find mental clarity. If you're not clear in your mind, you just will fall. There's no other option, but you will just fall. And I noticed like some of the postures, like for example, like Pincha Mayurasana, balancing on the forearms, Karanavasana, where you're balancing, you take a lotus, you go down, and then you have to go up again. The times that I've been able to do Karanavasana, like when I first went to Mysore and I was doing this posture, I would like kind of put my head down to lift my body up. And actually you're not supposed to put your head down. You're just supposed to push yourself up. And the times that I was actually able to push myself up is when I told myself, you like this, just find the empty space in your mind. Just find the empty and quiet space in your mind.
And that's how you do all the balancing posts.
That's like all of them. And like, for example, handstand or something, when I have to do this, and like it's always at the end of practice, it's always like, okay, now after this I'm going to run and have to like deal with my life. Like it's like the last bit of energy, but I always have to clear my mind in this time. Because I'll like be like about to like go upside down. Oh, okay, then I'm gonna have to go do no. Like let that go. Let all the future plans go, but just focus on this. And then when you can do that, when you can like focus, hold yourself upside down or hold yourself in any of these postures and just breathe, like there's an amazing like space beyond thought that you can find.
Definitely.
And that's going back to also like what we were talking about, like when you were talking about the focus of like where you're looking. So we have 3 things when we're practicing Ashtanga yoga. So it's called the Tristana method, and this is how we practice. So we have asana, then we have drishti, and we have pranayama. So asana is the posture itself. So what the form of the posture is. So we focus on this. Then drishti is your gazing point. So where you're looking. And again, like where you look is where your focus goes. So it's always, you don't want to just be like, like that's then it's like, okay, your energy is all over the room.
Exactly.
But it's usually like the tip of your nose or the tip of your finger, some very small specific place.
Yeah.
So your mind is very like lasered in.
Yes.
And then the last one is pranayama. So it's the
Breathing.
quality of your breath. And that's like also like what the practice is asking us to do is just like examine the quality of the breath and the way that the breath moves in like comfortable situations, uncomfortable situations, and also how it reacts to the thoughts that are going like back and forth that come up inside of all of the different postures.
Because like, you might be breathing harder in a more challenging pose, and that's also because of anxiety of like, oh my god, am I gonna make it? Like, am I gonna be stuck? Like, am I gonna fall down? Am I gonna hurt myself? Like all those like Mayas.
And the more that you practice, the more that goes away.
Right.
The more that you realize, okay, here's like this quiet space. And like now, like the Kapotasana, again, coming back to it, it's like now, like I can find a quiet space there.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's only after like years of like all of the screaming in my head that's like, okay, like then the voice like becomes quieter and quieter because you're so used to it. Like you first hear it screaming and then, okay, hey, I hear you screaming. It's okay. And then just, you know, step by step until it's not there anymore.
That's true. Just to sit in the pain and sit in the screaming or whatever you're scared of and just keep doing that. And I guess for me, it's about like when I do yoga, it's about knowing my body and knowing my mind, you know, kind of like, well, very much like meditation, right? Because like yoga gets you into a meditative state, but I think there is a relationship with the body that becomes involved with the yoga than just like sitting there and meditating. Yeah, because you're like, okay, I have to make a relationship with my leg and like with my arms balancing and all that stuff. So it's like a very, I would say, like for me it was an advanced state of meditation.
Actually, so like in terms of Ashtanga yoga, in terms of the 8 limbs, you will have asana come first. And it's not until like many other steps that you start meditation. So actually asana is meant to prepare you for meditation.
Right.
Because, you know, you make your body more flexible, more strong, so you can actually sit for a long time without agitation. You already are like working on the breath inside of the asana. Like everything inside of Ashtanga yoga is meant to prepare you for meditation.
Yeah, that's how I feel when I do yoga, Ashtanga, and I want to meditate right after. Yeah. It just goes automatically, interestingly.
Yeah. And it's like with asana, it's also like why we start with asana is when you start with asana, then you can observe like everything else in your life that makes it difficult, because you are finally like waking up, like, you know, this sleeping child that has been like, you know, asleep for so long. And then you wake up the body, and the body will tell you, okay, you need to have healthier habits, drink more water, eat healthier food, sleep earlier, stop wearing high heels, switch to Birkenstocks, like, you know, all of these types of things.
Yeah, and for me, I think it was more of like the mental part that like told me like, hey, you can't keep like be all over the place anymore. You know, like I think I have pretty much healthy physical habits, but not mental habits. And when I told you, right, that like when you told me where to look, that's when I start to realize that I never really focus on where I look in life as well. You know, unless of course, like when I'm having conversation with you, then I'm like, of course. But like when I go into a room or when I go into an event, it's like I'm very not focused. I'm very anxious, and I just want to look all over the place. And, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because sometimes that can come from being like spacey, you know.
Yes,
like
I'm very spacey.
But no, some people are spacey. But if you're saying that it's like anxiety, it's like it's different. It's not like slow spaciness, but it's actually like everything is moving so fast inside of you that it cannot be focused.
No,
But it's interesting because like some people, they just come with like they're just not focused, but they're like happy in their head, like, oh, you know, not focused.
But
it's different.
Like it's different.
If it's in this case, it's like it's just moving so fast. Yeah, and you can't find a place to anchor onto.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I move on to becoming spacey, and because I learned that spacing out is just your body reacting to stress, because like you can't handle like the stress coming up anymore because you're like, oh my god, where do I look? You're just like, okay, just space out.
So it's like stop feeling.
Just stop feeling. Just zone out. Just zone out. And that happens sometimes when I practice by myself too. Like I just space out because maybe like too many thoughts coming up and all.
But that's interesting because it's like that shows you your habit. in your life. Like practicing will always show you your habit.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, it's like it like lays it out on the table for you. Here's your habit. Like now what are you going to do?
Look at it.
Yeah, look at it. What are you going to do? Yeah.
It's really cool how you can like discover yourself as you just keep doing yoga, keep challenging yourself, and then like feeling the uncomfortableness in like different kinds of asanas, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Like we have challenges based on like our traumas and all that stuff that have been stored in our body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, one last thing I want to ask, you know, is like because you've moved from Boston to Bangkok and also growing up with a Chinese dad and a American mom.
Yes, American.
So very multicultural, and I just want to see, this is a really cool mix, you know, of like, because you know, like the Chinese dad is always stereotyped as like very strict, very disciplined, whereas like the Western culture is like, oh, freedom, do whatever you want, you know. So what is like the cultural difference that you see, or maybe growing up and also moving here, of like what discipline is for someone in two different cultures, or how it's being practiced differently, or how it's been perceived differently, if you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think that the Western mind is like very much like question everything, talk about everything, intellectualize everything. And then like in terms of like discipline in Asia, what I've seen is like follow your teacher, just follow your teacher, but don't question. So it's like
it's very contrasting, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting because everybody talks like about like, okay, like Asian dad is very strict, but my Asian dad was so different. Like my Asian dad was a Tai Chi master.
Oh my God.
So actually, you know, like it's a very high level Tai Chi master, which means like martial arts has been in my family for many, many years. And like, I think it's also why like Ashtanga yoga just feels like right to me, because as a child, like some of my first memories are we would have like a glass sliding door, kind of the one like that's in front of us that they can't see on the other side. But as a child, like some of my first memories would be like crawling at like 4 a.m. to this glass sliding door and see my dad practicing Tai Chi outside. And like, then I think like, as I was growing older, I would think, okay, like my dad is so strange. Like he always sleeps so early. He always wakes up so early. Like his habits are so weird. And then now like, it's, you know, now it's me. Yeah. So it's like, it's very interesting. And like, I don't think I mentioned to you, but like when I was 12, he actually passed away. So it was like a very, very interesting time of, you know, like growing up in America, then it's like every connection to anything Asian was just like gone.
Oh, so you didn't get to do anything Asian?
Not really, because everything was just like very, you know, like everything was very Western.
Right.
But then I think the more and the more that I practice, like it's like I think practicing also kind of like brought me here in a way. And then like everything like from my past, like stories he had told me came up.
Wow.
So for example, like in one of the first conferences in Mysore, Shirachi said, you know, it's going to be very difficult for you to understand some of the philosophy that I'm talking about unless you grew up in a household where they taught you Ramayana and Mahabharata.
What is that?
These stories, so they're Indian texts, Indian stories. It's like not exactly like the Bible. It's more like stories like about the gods, like the gods at war, and like all of these stories about morality. So like in Indian stories about morality, but very big books. And he just said, you know, it's gonna be difficult for you to understand what I'm talking about unless you study this.
Yeah.
And that was my bedtime story.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So actually, like, you know, like the more and the more that I was practicing, it like I realized it's bringing me back to like lessons that I knew as a child. But I think like, you know, when my dad passed away, it was like so many things like, okay, like now you have to like acclimate to like this just like only Western place. But then from practicing, I think I just kind of came back to like, okay, now you have to kind of remember everything that you forgot.
But it's kind of like going back to your family roots.
Yes.
What actually is already in you, ingrained in you.
Yes, exactly.
You know, just that he was gone for a while and then you found your way back home to him as you practiced too.
Yes. No, that's really how I feel. And actually, like one of his quotes, like I have a box of his writing because he wrote many different articles. But one of his quotes is, in patient repetition, everything that does not belong to us gets washed away.
Wow.
And for the Ashtanga yoga practice, and I think everything we do, it's like that. Yeah.
How does that look like in everyday life that's not Ashtanga practice?
It could be anything. I mean, I see like even like a garden, like the gardeners and stuff out here. I think that's one thing. I think it can be anything that you're doing with love, art, dance.
Kind of like you know what's right for you, and then you just keep doing it. And once you know what's not right for you, you lose it, right?
Yep.
And you just keep getting better and better. Consistency.
Yeah. I mean, also like, you know, like with Shannon, like his martial arts as well. It's like that type of a thing. And I think like if we go back to like the East and West conversation, like it's so interesting because like I grew up in the West, but then I feel like my heart like belongs to the East.
Oh.
Like I really feel that way.
Wow.
Like it just makes sense. Like now that I live here, like I feel like, okay, this is home.
Wow.
If I have to go back to America, it's just like but
you grew up in America. Yeah.
I know, but I was like in a weird place like my entire life.
I know. Wow.
But I think Shannon like has a very like he has like also like kind of a Western mindset because of martial arts and because of MMA. So it's very interesting, like us being together and also like my parents being together. Like it's a very interesting mix of East and West that is not necessarily stereotypical,
right? Yeah,
but the good thing is we get to choose what we want from both sides.
From whatever works for you and whatever you want from you guys, right? Wow, that's so cool.
I think it's also like why we do have to practice too, like practice whatever we practice, to really be able to know ourselves. Because otherwise, you know, if you're in one place and then the other, you can get lost. You can be like, okay, I'm just going to adapt everything from this culture. Or I'm going to adapt everything from this culture. But you won't know
you don't
like,
have
how
like
to
a
pick and choose.
Like you don't have a strong place to choose from or a strong identity to begin with. Like, of course, you can adapt, but like where is like the core, right? That you go in and then you change and all that stuff. Yeah.
Do you feel like you had like time also to kind of pick and choose what you like from each culture?
No, because I only have one culture.
But you did spend time in the States.
I did spend time in
Wisconsin, which is like a super American, you know. So
Minnesota,
it's like Minnesota.
It was really cold. No, I think I was really confused that time because I was not mentally clear. I was in heavy depression, and I never treated it. You know, I was sitting in pain. I didn't know it was pain, and it was very uncomfortable, and I succumbed to the pain, and I went into addiction. So it was like just spiraling down.
I see.
It wasn't like I was like trying to live. Learning time. No, I learned about pain. I learned about depression, and I learned what it felt like to be depressed. You know, like when people talk about depression and all that stuff, like you actually have no idea. Like the people who are depressed, like they feel so much pain that they don't know how to get out. Because like, okay, like so in ice bath or in free diving or like in sports, like you feel the pain, but like you get out in one posture and then you can stop, right? But when someone's going through depression in their mind, you don't know when it's gonna end. You have no idea, and you want to get out, but you can't. It's that hopelessness. Yeah, so that was like my whole other story of pain in Minnesota. For me, like I felt like I always had a conflicting feeling. But growing up, I was categorized as Western because my parents were really Asian, you know, and I was always questioning everything, needing to know the answer, trying to intellectualize everything, rationalize everything. But then once I moved to the States, actually, that's when I started to eat somtam for the first time.
Wow.
Because I really missed home. I was like, I need to do something that reminds me of home. I started going to the temples, and I never went to the temples. I was like anti-temples.
Wow.
Yeah, so for me, it was like a switch. And then now I'm slowly like integrating both. And for me, that's like where spirituality comes in as well, because I'm seeing like Buddhism, Jesus, and like all kinds of culture in just this one space, and it's called energy. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is going back to the surrender to God.
Yes, for something that's higher than me, and I've never believed in it, you know, up until like 2 years ago when I started practicing Ashtanga yoga in Bangkok too, because that's when I started to feel something in my body that I never felt before. Yeah, and then I'm like, yeah, something's out there you don't know.
yeah.
It's
so interesting. Like within this structure, like we have to relax to get it.
That's true.
It's like also like Shirachi says this too. He said, like if you practice something that's not structured, it also is like informing your mind, informing your nervous system that it can be random. Like I can just do whatever I want, whatever time I want.
Exactly.
And it's just like, it's not helpful, but within the structure, like you can find yourself.
Yes.
So it's very, very interesting.
Yes. And I think that's also like applied to the world itself, as in like the ecosystem of nature. There is a structure, there is a dominant species, and there's like everything is structured, like it's ingrained in the Fibonacci sequence that's also structured, and I think humans were just living based on that too.
Yeah, it reminds me of like being in school and the teacher just bringing in the pine cone and like making us count for the Fibonacci sequence.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's all we have for today.
Great.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we close down, Faylee?
I don't think so. I think everything's good. I know that you did ask me. You wanted, because I remember last time you had mentioned like Ashtanga can seem like a very masculine practice. Yeah. And then how to find like the feminine energy within this masculine frame.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because it's very structured.
Yes.
Structure is masculine energy.
Yes.
So
I mean, I think like, going from the beginning of talking about these two teachers, I saw them teach in a completely different way, but it's both Ashtanga yoga. Like that's one point I would like to say. And then it's also like when you start, you have primary series. Primary series is very right, left, do. And it feels quite masculine. But then when you get into second series, working on the nervous system, and going through all these back bends, going through like the leg behind the head, all of these postures, you have to ask your body to soften to get it. So, and then once you like kind of learn this lesson, you come back to primary series, everything becomes softer. There's a different quality inside of the practice. But the first one is like, you're kind of like, you will feel like more rugged, I think, when you first start. Because you're dealing with like so much noise inside of your head and so much pain in your body. Yeah. But the more and the more that you keep practicing, like you will realize that within the structure, the only way to get it, like I have to soften, I have to relax. You have to no other yourself. Choice. Yeah.
As you practice, and then the voice comes up, and you're just like, okay, this is just a voice. I'm just pressuring myself. It's gonna be okay, and you keep going on. Yeah. So it's a balance of both.
Yeah. And even like with with my dogs, like they've also like taught me to relax more. Because I have, like my Kibo, my boy, like he will just go outside of the door as soon as Shannon leaves. If I'm like in my room, like reading to myself, he'll come outside of my door, like the ears up like this, and then he makes his crying sound like until I come out. And then until I come out and I sit with him. Such a baby. Like we all like like have that too. That little kibo. I know that like that sound in my head because I hear it every day. But we all have that sound in our head. Like when we're practicing or we're doing anything that's difficult for us, they're like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And we just need to like, okay, I'm here. Like I'm gonna come and take care of you now. Yeah,
that's true. And that's how you have to treat yourself as you're practicing, right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. It was such a good podcast. And like if you're listening to this until the end, Faylee has a Ashtanga Shala program, and she's practicing here at Patalm, and you can check out her Instagram, which I'll link down below in the description. So make sure you check that out. Both her Shala Instagram and her personal Instagram, where she's like a yoga influencer. So there's Faylee's contact, and you're welcome to join our practices anytime in Bangkok in the middle of the garden. Thank you so much for being here, Faylee.
Thank you so much for today.
Yay! Yay!